Hi, so my name is Stasia. I just recently went to Costa Rica and partook in a ayahuasca retreat. So it was a 5-day retreat hosted by Aaron and Victor, which was absolutely awesome. I've been feeling called to share my experience. I've slowly been building up the courage for this. But yeah, so let's see, a little bit about the retreat. The company is called Soulina, and it was in Nosaro, Costa Rica. I joined, where I signed up for the retreat back in July. I think it was July. So in June, I went to Sedona, Arizona to see Aaron Doughty live for one of his live events, and which was mainly meditation. I had an awesome experience there. I had lots of visions. Really cool releases. There was a breathwork ceremony put together by Victor and Patty Odo. It was absolutely transformational for me. So yeah, they started talking about plant medicine the last day, and I'm like, count me in. So here I am now. The ceremony was, or the retreat, I'm sorry, was March 11th through the 18th, I think. Or no, the 13th through the 18th. But it was pretty crazy. So the first day we did I think it was pretty chill. We did a breathwork ceremony, I think maybe the second day. And then we had our first ayahuasca ceremony. I did prepare for ayahuasca with the dieta, however you say it. I have a little pooch here. Tucker, say hi. But yeah, so I did that. Basically, you just kind of clean the vessel so you have an easier time with the medicine. I also think the dieta is to help, get your mind in the right set, get you in the right mindset. Excuse me. For example, it's a lot of sacrifice and self-discipline, self-control, which certainly comes in handy, or doesn't, with ayahuasca. But anyway, so the first ceremony for me was really intense. The medicine was really potent for me. I had some minor visuals, a lot of internal visuals. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Tool, Alex Gray, the artist, but the dimensional art with the faces and the eyes on the wall, things like that. But I had made a conscious choice to work on myself. I actually decided to do the plant ceremony with the hopes of helping me with some childhood trauma that's really affecting my life, or that was really affecting my life, past tense. But anyways, sorry if my story is all over the place. Just be patient. But yeah, so here I am, first night at the ceremony, and I was having my ups and downs with the medicine. I was struggling, when is this going to be over? And I started noticing that things were coming up for me. So I like to call it my darkness. Aaron Doughty refers to it as shadow work, in reference to Carl Jung, the psychologist. So it's recognizing parts of yourself that you keep hidden from yourself and from the world, more like heavy emotions and things like that. Essentially, you shine light on those and you have more awareness. This is how I understand it anyway, not specifically, but my understanding of it is, and then you shine light of awareness on that and you're able to make choices. So anyway, so I started recognizing these things, and ayahuasca was very gentle, and it would show something to me and I'm like, no, I'm not dealing with that, really cold and frustrated. And then she just continued to show me things, and I finally recognized that there was just an awareness in me where I recognized that those are things that were hurting, especially because I wouldn't give them the attention that they deserved. So I found myself nurturing, mothering, basically, these parts of me and these situations that I didn't want to confront, and had more sympathy for them to allow them to unfold. So this went on for, who knows, back and forth. really challenging. Some points I just kept thinking, like, when is this gonna be over? But yeah, that was pretty much the first night for me. It was challenging. I had a lot of resistance, and somatically, like, I could feel the heaviness. I could feel the density and the energy. So for me, I've recognized that, my childhood traumas affect my perception and my discernment on everyday life. And it's not just those, but that was at the time what I thought I was going to be healing or working out or figuring out, or it's like layers of the onion. So I'm not sure if anyone's ever truly healed at this stage, but anyway, but yeah, it was good. And then I had some enjoyable moments with the medicine as well. I could feel it kind of loosening me up a little bit. So the next day, it's kind of like, for me, the next day after mushrooms, after you trip out on mushrooms all night and you just have so much energy and you feel like a child and lighter, I kind of felt like that. There were still some heavy moments, but nothing in particular that I could pinpoint. And one of my friends says that the first day of ayahuasca, the first night, she's kind of like breaking you down, like opening you up a little bit. So the second night of ceremony, that was a bit tougher. There was a lot more heaviness, a lot more darkness. I was really suffering. I had a difficult time relaxing and surrendering to the medicine. And at one point I heard her say, it doesn't have to be this difficult. But I definitely continued to swim through my darkness. And then I would have like moments of bright awareness and understanding, and compassion for myself and for people, especially my son. I'm not like a horrific mother or anything like that, but I did recognize how my judgments were affecting his being, and that's not really something that I want to do, even if it's, not conscious. It's just not, I want him to have, an unconditional, judgment-free experience so he can navigate his own path and his own being and spirit and whatnot. But anyway, so the second night was a lot tougher, lots of darkness, and then lots of dancing. So this was when I feel like Aya would award me almost. So I would like go to hell and then come back, go to hell and then come back. Definitely had some visuals. I can't remember if it was the first night or second night, I forgot about this, but I was in another dimension and there were beings eating our life force. But it was very quick, so I chose not to stay there with it. I was able to control that and not get lost. I did also see like a female deity or being that kind of looked like a Hindu thing. She had like a split eye and she was like, tongue was all out, all crazy and naked. But like I said, I would see these things, but I would choose not to follow that path because I was set on going into my shadow. But yeah, I just saw a lot of heaviness. And then some amazing dancing, and I felt like I was releasing energy and trauma, like maybe not trauma, but I was releasing something through movements with my body. There were periods of joy in there as well, but then there was also like these primal moments where I just felt like a spider, something really bizarre. But yeah, so I also want to note that I didn't really journal while I was there. I just didn't feel that way at the time. But I did journal quite a bit afterwards, which was helpful for me. So then here comes the third night, which was the most intense. Before I go there, the second night, the third day, not the after the second ceremony, I was definitely more aware of my intuition, there was more awareness of my body, of myself, of energies, of I was aware of how people were affecting my mood. And I was experiencing, it was like a roller coaster ride of emotions, and, moments of excitement, like childlike joy and curiosity and wanting to share. And then moments where I'm like, fuck this, sorry, screw this, I want to be by myself. And, but yeah, it was really interesting, definitely. A lot more vulnerable, I guess. So the walls, I think at this point, Aya was subconsciously working in me. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Back to the first night, I also fell asleep for a little while during the ceremony, and I had like these bubble crackle sounds, like shh, like in here, like there was some sort of work being done like, inside of my face, like in my sinuses and my ears. It was interesting. So yeah, and then, oh yeah, night 2, I also forgot the most traumatic thing. So I'm not, an expert on ayahuasca by any means. I also didn't heavily research the medicine, but I definitely feel like she's a conscious being, and I felt like I was being tested. I'm sure there are other beings that were part of this. I don't know if she calls on other spirits to assist her with her work or how that works, or if the facilitators, aka shamans, who don't like to be called shamans, also call in other spirits to facilitate or to help with the process. But the second night, I forgot, I was being told that basically what had happened to me, which was a lot of childhood sexual abuse, physical abuse, for most of my young life and up until my early adult years, was being done to my son. And this is something that I have battled with, and prior to ayahuasca, the past few months leading up to the ceremony, I was really getting triggered. So for example, I would not take my son to his daycare if the husband was there, just the man. He never did anything or made me feel a certain way. I was just afraid to leave my son alone with a man at the daycare. Things like that, or getting triggered that something will happen to him if he's not with me, thinking that maybe my mom's husband, because a lot of the men that my mom chose to be with were abusers and abused me and my sisters. So I, just naturally or unnaturally, because of these experiences, I see my perception of that, is fearful. And it's a really tough way to live, to think that the world is out to get you all of the time, or people are going to hurt your son. It's just, yeah. So then I found myself the second night just praying. So they have like a beautiful altar. I forgot to mention that this is very like centered in God and light and truth. So there's a lot of prayer, which was really comforting for me. So I found myself praying a lot. What the lead facilitator had mentioned, that prayer was the highest form of gratitude. So during my ups and downs with accepting my darkness, I would get overwhelmed and I would find myself praying. I would pray, to all sorts of things, like the angels of the wind, to help like clear the energy around me. When I would purge in the bathroom, I would pray to the angels of the water and thank them and ask them to bless me and to protect me. And I would pray to Jesus and my angels, my guides. I was in that prayer mode. Good Lord, like help me now. So yeah. So one of the things that just came to me about the judgments that I was able to recognize, and I think it was actually the awareness was kicked on from Patty Odo. She was singing a song about judgment, and I had been aware of that and like how harshly I judged myself. And at some points I wouldn't even get up to go to the bathroom because I thought people were looking at me, and felt like I was doing something wrong. And I had recognized, and oftentimes I will think things are, Tucker, let go. I will think things are my fault when they're not. And I recognize that is because of the childhood trauma that I had experienced, made to feel shame and guilty. And I was also severely punished physically and emotionally, mentally a lot as a child, like whipped with a belt, like asked, do you want this one or this one? Like a thick belt or a thin belt, making me choose, like crazy, right? So I felt a lot of shame, and ayahuasca was showing me how much I have been living in this heavy energy, carrying this shame and this pain. Even knowing something is off, but not being, aware of how much that is. My dog can't get enough of this toy. Tucker. But yeah, it was a lot. So, but yeah, Patty with the judgment song certainly helped. I noticed that sometimes I would walk up to go to the bathroom, and it was like I was going to get in trouble or something. And then moments I would like lose myself in like movement, and then I'd wake up and realize where I was and be all paranoid again, So I think that's the part of it, that hyper awareness out of survival as a child, and then internalizing everything, and just carrying the weight of those heavy emotions and the things that I went through with me, and seeing that for what it was. It was like I took a microscope and put it up to 10x, 50x, and 100x. And she was just showing me these loops that I was playing in my mind over and over again. I think that's why she said, it doesn't have to be this hard. But I think another thing, I wasn't allowed to cry as a child. I would get punished for that, physically, of course, and then ridiculed, and lived in fear, not being able to share or express myself, and not able to show what was the truth in me. So one of the reasons why I'm making this video is I'm hoping that, people who have had some similar experiences to me, that are thinking about trying plant medicine to help their being, and to, change their consciousness and their awareness, and to help heal, that, they can at least use this as a feedback or a review. But yeah, sorry, it's a lot. It's heavy to talk about these things. It's, still painful. But yeah, so witnessing all of the things that I've witnessed and experienced have definitely, that stuff was in me and in my body and in my mind and my subconscious programming, and coloring the way that I would see life, and also attracting not as bad of relationships, but I've attracted a lot of addicts in my life, and people who couldn't show up for me the way that I would show up for them, people that would always tell me that I'm too sensitive. So a lot of that. Also my 20s were, that was when the flashbacks began for me, were the good old 20s. Lots of self-medicating during those years, but here I am today. So yeah, the second night I was back to, I lost myself praying at the altar. After everything that I was being shown, and my own suffering, convinced that I had a demon. I was possessed by a demon, that their demon was living in me, but it was my mind, I'm pretty sure. Although there's something else there, which I may or may not get into. I was just praying like crazy for my son, and just begging Jesus, and just praying. At some point, my heart cracked open, and it wasn't like an anatomical heart. It wasn't like a cartoon heart. It was like a stone that was like gravel, or not gravel, like asphalt, and it's like dry, and there's all those cracks in it, and then it's like pushing up because there's like weeds trying to grow through it or something. That's how it opened. It cracked open of like a bright, like yellowish green light, and it just like, the shell just came off of it. And I think that was opening my heart, because of my experiences trying to protect my son and love myself, and seeing all of this stuff. I was still being convinced that something was happening. Like I was like, I need to call my son's father, like have him go get our son, even though I kind of knew that there was no truth to it. It was just another highlighted event, of the loudness and the sickness of these unconscious thought patterns that were just taking over my life. And it's really, I want to say unfortunate, but I don't know the path, but it's the way that our past experiences can affect us is just so powerful. And I mean, I knew I had some issues, but good Lord, that was a whole new level. That was, yeah, so I emphasized that, which kind of like she needed to break me, like really, or maybe she didn't. That's just what I needed, because I had grown up with so much trauma that, hiding and tolerating so much. I took a beating for sure in some ways, but a blissful one at that. So yeah, I think that crack, my heart opening, it created a pathway to Jesus, I think, which is interesting because I've been trying to cultivate a relationship with Jesus. I'm still not there. I'm not like talking to Jesus, like, hey Jesus, how are you? I'm still not really praying to Jesus. But I grew up praying to God, and then learning that people pray to Jesus was like weird and foreign to me, and kind of like I was feeling some type of way about it. And it wasn't until one of my very first mentors, Dan McDonald, formerly the Life Regenerator, like he would just share his wonderful stories about Jesus. And then it was Michael Mirdad, and I just kind of knew intuitively, and like my soul knew that's an energy I need to get right with, and I want to line up with, and I want to be open with. So yeah, there was the good old Jesus moment. And then there was dancing, the crazy dancing. That was very like relieving for me. So yeah, and then the third night of the ceremony was I was feeling really good that day, and I got plenty of rest. I was one of those who wouldn't go to breakfast because I needed my sleep. So we were pretty much eating like twice a day and then a snack at night, and I just couldn't do it. I was just too tired. I needed my rest and just my solitude. I think the smaller group in the house. So day 3, I was feeling really good, and what happened before the ceremony is I channeled, a song, and it's this country song. It's like, you're holy, and I'm high on loving you. And it was on repeat, like singing to me. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm holy, Yeah. So the 3rd ceremony, I was much more grounded, and I was getting right with my prayers, and just kind of giving my thanks, and just really trying to be in a state of gratitude so that I could receive, and just, I don't know. That's when it really happened, and Aya was just, she was magic. I was much more relaxed, and I could feel the medicine working through me. And at one point, and I don't know if it was ayahuasca or another being, but it had like these little arms, like 6 arms, like doing this thing. And it was like, let me take this from you. And I was scared, and then I relaxed, and like just this black, like heavy, negative, I don't know, darkness, my darkness was just being pulled from my body. So that energy that I had been carrying, she just took it away, and I let her. And then there was like this like Mayan, like Aztec, like square looking head with a tongue that was like going around and around. And I could feel it was here. It was right here. It was in my mind, like my mind's eye, and it was cleaning. I was a little afraid because it was all blackness, but it was eating like things that didn't belong there. That's what it felt for me. And so I didn't fear it. And then a bunch of things happened. I started to, another thing is I was given a message. I saw the name Scott, like something was like, which was the name of my stepfather, one of my main abusers. And I knew that he was coming. I knew that I was going to be dealing with that. And that's when it happened. And I started having such intense like feelings and emotions. And I still was too prideful, or maybe, no, I don't think prideful is the correct word. I was still too ashamed to ask for help, to seek out help from the facilitators. And then I think what had happened, this is gonna sound crazy, but I telepathically was telling them I needed help. And either that, or I just looked like a fish out of water, like. And they came. And then the first one, this is a little like disturbing, so if this is going to be triggering for some people, you can fast forward this because it's like disturbing. It was just like, no, daddy, no. And then I just had like immense sadness and crying. And then, actually, I'm not really sure of the order of these events, to be honest. I'm just telling them as they're popping into my head. And then I had this moment where Aya showed me that my biological father, who I don't know, and my mother has spent the majority of her life lying to me about it. First, she told me it was my sister's dad. Then she told me he was from Puerto Rico and he was a drug dealer. Then she told me it could also be his friend because they hooked up, or she got drunk and he slept with her. You know, also she told me she tried to have me aborted like once or twice, and it just didn't work out. So she kept me. Thanks, Mom. So I had all this like stuff in my head, you know. Aya told me that my biological father was sent by my mother's boyfriend, who at the time was a coke dealer and had been busted and going to jail, or he was in jail. And his mother was like a bruja, like a witch, and she sent his friend to rape my mother, to impregnate my mom, to help him shorten his sentence because he would have like a family or something like that, like some crazy shit. Ayahuasca like showed me that. And then this is like really mind-blowing, right? So I kind of had a sense as it was getting closer and closer to the ceremony. People will say that when you decide to, you know, journey with ayahuasca, she comes into your life. I can see now that the past year, this consciousness, this being, this thing has been in my life for this past year, orchestrating all of this stuff, because it had been coming into my awareness of that as a possibility. Because of course at the time, you know, I found out that my sister's father wasn't my father when I was 13 years old in school. And my sister is Mi'kmaq Indian, and we lived on a Canadian reservation. Well, I pretty much grew up in Maine, and she had cousins in the same town who started going to our school. Well, I got into a fight with one of the cousins, and she's the one who told me that I didn't know who my father was. And that was pretty traumatic, because I was like, all right. So that's kind of, you know, my mom not really telling me the truth. And I think as I kept pushing, as I was getting older and older and into my early adult years, I think that she wasn't comfortable explaining to me that she thought that I really was the product of rape, which is why she tried to abort me. She would never tell me who I looked like more or anything. She would never admit that. And I think because she's always known, and that may have been her way of protecting me, and definitely gave me a new level of appreciation for my mom, because I think that's pretty traumatic, being raped and then having to carry that child and giving birth to that child is probably, you know, that's a lot. So hence the song You're Holy, You're Holy. I think that's why my guides or my team or my angels were channeling that to me, because that was like really a lot. But for some reason, when I was with ayahuasca and she was telling me, it was like, not that I was detached, but it was like, this, I understand this, like, thank you, like, this makes sense. So here's, you know, something that's really freaking crazy. My stepfather, Scott, who was the main abuser in my life, his mother was raped, and that's how he was conceived. So, you know, we were both conceived from rape. And when Aya was showing me that, I knew that about him. And then his father was a military guy, very, very abusive, sick man, abused all of his children. And, you know, I don't know how bad Scott had it, but I have a feeling that it was probably far more horrific than the way that I had it. Not that that's like giving permission or anything like that, but, you know, monkey see, monkey do. I'm trying to have compassion, which is what Aya showed me. And I was able to go to him in his suffering and hold him as a baby and love him. It was certainly, heartbreaking and overwhelming. And then this is like another test. I would hear, that they're going to kill him, like it was like crazy shit. Like, do you want us to, find him and kill him? And I was like, no. And I was like, I think the way that, the spirit of Aya or my guides or Jesus or something, I don't know who the heck it was, but they were testing me. I was being tested on where my heart really was and who I really was. And they were showing me who I really was. Because after everything that he did, I just felt compassion for him and sadness. And I could forgive him. I'm not saying that all is forgiven, but there are certainly layers. And I think that some pretty heavy layers, densities were vanquished or something, And yeah, so I'm sorry. All right. And then let's see. I had a moment where a facilitator came up to me, and when I was like, I need help, and just like crying. Actually, the first one I think was one of Patty's girls, Dana, who was fabulous. And when I opened my eyes and I looked at her, and she looked like a completely different being. Like I could still see her, but it was like there was a face over her face. Like I could see her soul, or I could see a spirit that was working through her, or an energy that was working through her. I'm not really sure about this terminology. I'm just kind of like saying how I saw things. I'm not sure if this is the proper word. So if I offend anybody, it's just take it as it is. Like I'm just trying to put it together. And then one of the shaman facilitators came over, and I saw her. I had a vision of her a few days prior to ayahuasca, but in soul form. And she looked like a worm, like a chicken head or something. It was really bizarre. Like, I don't know how to describe it. And I was able to recognize that it was her. So I don't know if it was a premonition and something that needed to be shown to me so I could trust and surrender to her work and what she was going to do to me or doing with me. Or if she had already been working with me. Because these people are very, very powerful spiritually, and such a blessing. I'm so thankful for them. So she grabbed my hair, like a fistful of hair. When I put my head up, it was like, put my head down firmly and just put me back in it. And I saw my sister, not my little baby sister, but my sister who's like 18 months younger than me, and just her suffering. And I just was like wailing. I finally was like really sobbing, really crying. I think it first started with the no daddy no, and I think that was my littlest sister. And I think I was channeling I was channeling their pain, their trauma, their suffering, and I had channeled that. And I just like wailed and cried, and I don't know for how long, but I mean, I was certainly conscious, and I had to like stop myself. But I feel like I sort of, like I didn't, relieve ancestral trauma, but I think that I did release some trauma for Scott and my sisters. At least I did for myself, because I know seeing my sister go through what she had to go through and not being able to help her and being helpless myself was really painful, because I'm like the oldest sister. So that was like, I just wanted to protect her and I couldn't. And then my littlest sister, I had actually warned my mother on many occasions, and she just didn't believe me or didn't want to hear it. And it got to the point where I stopped speaking to her for a couple of years because I couldn't handle it. And then she found out for herself what was really going on. But anyways, this is not about that conversation. I love my mom. I just want to put that out there. She's definitely been on her own journey. And I see now, I feel like I'm going to hopefully chip away at the family curses and the ancestral trauma, so our future generations don't have to experience them. But yeah, so that third night, that was really crazy. That's when a lot of the deep work happened. And the first 2 nights were really just removing those layers, the surface layers, to get to that root of that pain from him. And then I had a lot of joy. I did have some minor visuals, but again, I was someone who I chose not to follow into La La Land or play with other dimensional beings. I danced, and then at one point okay, that's driving me nuts, Tucker. All right. At one point when I was like dancing, I was like really in flow, like everything was really soft. I heard someone say like sacred communion, and that's where I went into, I don't have a good recollection of this, recall, but I remember there was just bright white, like bright light, like it felt like it was like sacred. And I feel like I communicated to my mom's husband's higher self, and I was able to understand that, he's not a child abuser. He's not like these other men. He's not those people. I mean, even though I know it's going to take me some time to like still get comfortable, I feel like I know now, and I didn't know before. And that in itself creates a lot of disharmony in a relationship. As much as I just wanted to like let that go and love him, I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to convince myself. I didn't know how to believe. I didn't know how to trust. That was something that I had a very little ability, is for trust. And I can see why, but I want to cultivate that for sure, Let's see, and then what else? So the third night I had the sacred communion that I hardly remember. And then lots and lots of dancing, feeling in control of my own body, which was really amazing. Just feeling my body and not feeling ashamed. I've been struggling with my weight for, a few years now, since my son will be 4 in May. So right before pregnancy, I started gaining some weight there. And then I just really struggled with my weight loss journey. But since Ayahuasca, things have certainly changed. And I think a lot of it has to do with energy leaving my body. I'm able to kind of not stuff myself with food to, go through emotions. So, and I'm working a lot more on hydration and fresh fruits and things like that. But sorry, I digress. But But yeah, basically, ayahuasca was pretty transformative. I will definitely do another ceremony, not anytime soon, because now I'm in the integration part, which there's not a lot of information on integration that I've seen so far. This group, the Soulina group, talks about it, and there's some work on it, but essentially they say you die, the old you dies, and then a new you is reborn, and then you have to integrate the old with the new. And for me, which I met this guy at a hostel who liked to work with peyote, and he had like this big eagle across his chest. He's like this surfer dude, blonde hair, like just yummy. But I was talking to him, and he was just like, yeah, like, the light of awareness, like I shine awareness on everything. And that's where I got that from. And I recognize that like things come up and I am aware. So am I going to choose what I used to choose, or am I going to choose the new path? That saying, keep calm and carry on. I mean, damn, that's like for real. But yeah, I totally recommend ayahuasca to anyone. You don't have to have like a lifelong history of traumatic traumas, or maybe you do, or I don't know. But I will definitely do it again. And I think it's just such an amazing medicine in making sure you do your research. I'm going to post a link for the group. I'm not like an affiliate or anything like that, but they just have so much integrity. Aaron Dowdy, Victor Odo, Patty Odo. Patty really was like the main host. She just kind of was like the mother of the group, and we were all her little kids, She made sure that everybody was okay. They all take the plant medicine, but Patty is like, I don't know if she's apprenticing and working on becoming a facilitator herself, but she's right there with you. Like she's, checking on everybody, walking around, burning the tobacco, then the next day she's running the integrations and everything else. But she really is just amazing. She really holds the space, and it's a very, very safe environment. And it was just great. I mean, Erin and Victor were good too. I'm not trying to whatever, but she was pretty much the main event, I think, for that. And it was a pleasure. I absolutely would work with this group again. The facilitators that they worked with, top notch, centered in God, centered in light. The music that they played, or I guess they refer to themselves as musicians, but they played music on the speakers. They played live music. They had teachings from Bashar. They had teachings from Thai, Eckhart Tolle, I think, just different things running in the background, like really good programming for consciousness and awareness, because I really think that ayahuasca like deconstructs and reconstructs your brain, and then you have all of that crazy like goodness, like high vibe, raise your consciousness, awareness stuff going on in the background and music, and it's just, yeah, it's very powerful for sure. So I hope this helps somebody out there and gives you some insight. If you have any questions or whatever, post a comment. I'm really going to start cultivating this channel. I have been called to do a YouTube channel for a long time, and I just been procrastinating, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling pretty enough, not feeling skinny enough, being awkward on camera, rambling, like God knows. So, but this is it. This is what I want to do, and I really want to share my journey, because I have found so many magnificent healers on YouTube and mentors that have shared their journey and have set me off. But Tucker's gonna go outside and say hi. All right, so I hope to hear from some of you. Yeah, and please like and share if you feel called to do so.